Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit, and today I want to look at a hand posted in the Red Chip Poker forums that I thought was pretty interesting. This was posted by Kava Kava, who is playing 50 no limit 6 max, and villain in this hand is irregular. They see each other all the time. Villain is multi-tabling, playing 6 or more tables, and villain's HUD over 2.3k hands is running 22-15, 4% 3-bet with a fold versus 3-bet of 29%. So they're playing 5-handed at the moment. Villain opens under the gun. Hero decides to 3-bet. And villain decides to 4-bet. Hero decides to call. And we're not going to talk so much about the exact hand. There's actually a list of questions at the bottom that I want to talk about. So we get ourselves in like a 2 SPR pot. Obviously, we're never folding an overpair at that point. Villain decides to bet. Hero decides to jam it. Really no questions at that point. Not too worried about the actual results or anything. Obviously, I feel this hand was played just fine. There obviously could be better ways to play it, but ultimately, totally fine post-flop. Like, no questions whatsoever. So there's a couple of different questions that he asked down below, and I think these are the really important things. So I want to just go through them. There's 7 points, and let's just talk about them and see what we think. So he asks, is it okay to just call a 4-bet in this pot with kings? Is it exploitable? So is it okay to call a 4-bet here? Sure. You can call it with kings, there's no problem with that. Sometimes it's definitely going to be the best play. That way, sometimes you can buff out your call 3-bet range so it doesn't just include hands like 9s, 10s, jacks, ace, queen, maybe ace, king. Is it exploitable? Well, that's up for debate. It depends on how you're trying to balance your ranges out, right? Are you trying to create a more aggressive 5-bet range? Are you trying to create a different call versus 4-bet range? Is it exploitable? I wouldn't say so unless you always call aces and kings here, and that way your 5-bet range really only becomes like ace, king, and less than valuable hands, so definitely need to keep that in mind if you always did it. If you don't always do it and you mix it up with aces and kings sometimes, I wouldn't say that it's heavily exploitable, no. I think that he probably was thinking that if I was to 5-bet that I would have aces or kings so he can fold. Well, part of the issue with that is that if you 5-bet and he only puts you on aces and kings, he probably thinks that your 5-bet range is too nutted, which means you need to start 5-betting a little bit more often so that you have some hands in there that are not just aces and kings, so he can't pinpoint you at that when you do 5-bet. If I just call, what hands does he put me on? Hands like ace-king, maybe ace-queen suited, and pairs like 9s through queens. I'd say that's pretty darn close, yeah. I'd probably say like 10s plus, some ace-king, some ace-queen suited. I think you're probably right on with that range. 4, against this type of player, is it good to 5-bet bluff shove? Well, you saw him do it in this hand with 8-9 suited. That's the hand that he decided to 4-bet with. So the question is it a good idea to 5-bet bluff shove? Well, his 4-bet range certainly includes some non-nutted hands. He's probably not going to call your shove with those hands. So yes, I think there is definitely some room to start making some 5-bet bluff shoves. Exactly how many? Difficult to say. But definitely kind of keep in mind the way that he's 4-betting against you in the future. Go back, look through your database, see if there's any hands you guys have kind of tangled in this way. If there's a whole bunch of like queens, ace, king, kings, that sort of stuff, that's not great for us. But if there's a lot of like garbage showing up in there, yeah, I'm definitely going to start working in some more 5-bet bluff shoves. 5, was his good play at all? Is this an example of a polarized range? Yes, this is polarized. Was his play good? Tough to say. If he thinks that you are 3-betting wide and folding versus 4-bets a lot, I'm okay with it. As played, he flopped a flush draw, and flush draws in a 2 SPR pot are getting in, so I think his play was okay. How do I play against this type of player in the future? Try to work in more 5-bet bluff shoves, and also just really keep in mind that this person does not love folding versus 3-bets. You can probably start 3-betting a little bit wider, totally for value. And obviously kings is easy, but hands like ace-queen could certainly start shifting. Things like 10s and jacks could certainly start shifting, so keep that in mind. And 7, what should I learn from this? Well, you can learn that his 4-bet range doesn't just include the nuts. You can also learn that he opens 8-9 suited from early position, which means he's probably opening other suited connectors, if nothing else, things like jack-10 suited, but probably things like 8-7 suited as well. So I definitely keep that in mind. I like knowing that his 4-bet range is not just the nuts when he does it from early position. And what else should you learn? Well, post-flop, there's really not much to glean, unfortunately. It's a very, very common situation. 2 SPR with a draw, never going to fold. So really not super shocked to see post-flop work out the way that it did. So Kava Kava, thanks for posting this great hand, and thanks so much for asking those great questions. You asked them in a really organized, easy to follow way, and I think these are really great questions that you want to be asking yourself. And if you're watching this and you've never really asked yourself questions like this, these are the kind of questions that will really allow you to hit that next tier in your poker training career. Really making sure that you're thinking about hands in depth, thinking about ranges, thinking about counter strategies. These are very, very important things if you're going to try to hit that next tier, if you're going to try to move up. These are the skills you need to have, and these are the questions you can ask in order to build those skills. So if you or anyone else has a poker-related hand or question, feel free to pop it over on the forums. We'll take a look at it as soon as we can. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there, and happy grinding.